Greetings everyone and welcome to SpaceWeek Live for Sunday, July 26th, 2020. So here we go. Starting a little bit late, had to get my notes in order. I had some issues sleeping last night, and so I had to sleep in, and I didn't have enough time to do my usual prep. Maximum chat pressure, that's right. So let's go ahead and get started. Looking back to the last week, it was an eventful one, and we're looking forward to another eventful week this week. Lots going on. Summer 2020 might be keeping us all at home, but up in space there's a lot happening. So a week ago, the UAE's Hope Mars mission launched successfully on a Japanese H-2A rocket from Tanegashima Space Center in the south of Japan. This is the same place that they launched their HTV cargo modules, the Kuonotori supply craft, to the ISS. Just a reminder, Hope is an orbiter, not a lander, so it's going to orbit the planet Mars, studying the atmosphere, the climate over a period of years. It's a little closer. And let's take a look at that launch here. Let me switch over to my browser.
92、91、90、89、
2段液体酸素系、液体水素系準備完了。
Pressurization of the liquid oxygen and hydrogen system of the second stage are complete.
79、78、77、
当地点火。
We are uniting the torch to power the excess hydrogen.
フレームデフレクター冷却開始。
Cooling emissions at the flame deflector at the launch deck.
打ち上げ1分前です。
It's 1 minute from launch.
Japan definitely believes in verbose countdowns. They don't have a countdown display on the screen, but they sure have that
カー
voice.
テン散水開始。
At the launch deck, the sun separation water system has been activated.
フライトモードオン。
Flight mode on.
非常用電池起動。
Activating the thermal batteries.
全システム準備完了。
All systems are go.
Sorry, I didn't realize I included so much of the pre-launch here.
メインエンジンスタート。
We have main engine ignition.
SRB 点火。リフト。
It's a re-ignition and liftoff.
H2A ロケット42号機は2020年1月20日午前6時58分14秒に種子島宇宙センターから打ち上げられました。
We have a liftoff with H2A vehicle number 42 from JAXA International Space Center at 6:58:14 a.m. on July 20, 2020 Japan Standard Time.
30、29、28、27、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28、29、28
打ち上げ以降、ロケットの完成は西部発射管制塔から国際総合司令塔に引き継がれています。
Following liftoff, the operation control of the launch vehicle has been switched from the blockhouse to the launch control center.
Very cool. So, beautiful day for a launch there. All right. So then on Thursday, this is like 2 weeks of Mars extravaganza here. So on Tuesday, China launched their Tianwen-1 Mars mission successfully on a Long March 5 rocket from the Wenchang spacecraft launch site in the island province of Hainan in far southern China. Now, let me show you where that is. That's the United States. So, Wenchang Launch Facility is China's only coastal launch center. You see there? It is way in the south of China on a large island called Hainan. And I believe it was finished in 2016, so it's a baby spaceport. It's pretty much brand new, kind of like Vostochny in Russia. Interestingly, Wenchang is affiliated with the Xichang Satellite Launch Center, which is 1,800 kilometers away to the northwest. So I'm not sure exactly what form that affiliation takes. Maybe they have common administration, but it's just interesting that it's considered part of Xichang, even though they're separated by like a continent's width of space. The broadcast, the broadcast of the Tianwen-1 launch. Holy cow! China does not make it easy. They don't typically. So apparently there are official Chinese Space Agency broadcasts of launches in China, but getting those broadcasts outside of China is anything but easy. And so what we had at the time was a god-awful mess of like handheld cell phone vertical, portrait-oriented videos, sideways videos. But we had we had something. We saw the launch. It wasn't properly synchronized. There was lag in the timeline, and the camera work was they may as well have handed cell phones to monkeys. But we did get to see the launch, so hooray for the people who made that happen. However, since that time, some cleaner videos have been released of the launch, so let's check that out. Like their politics, you may not like the fact that they don't provide good live streams, but they do have some beautiful rockets over there. So the launch was successful. Tianwen-1 is on its way, and I should mention that the Long March 5 that we just watched very briefly is China's heaviest rocket, and they needed that heft, because the Tianwen-1 mission contains both an orbiter and a lander. The orbiter is going to presumably, I mean, I don't have details on like China isn't very forthcoming with details on their scientific operations, but the orbiter is going to presumably relay the communications from their lander, which has a rover similar to the Opportunity, Endurance, etc. So yeah, congratulations to China, and we'll see what happens once it arrives. Let me catch up on the chat. All right, Maria Kutujan asked, are humans able to bring about climate change on Mars? So, great question. Climate change on Earth, I mean, Earth's climate changes all by its lonesome over the course of time, but human-induced climate change has mainly come about in the past 150 years, basically since the Industrial Revolution and the large-scale, industrial-scale burning of coal and other such carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gas emitting activities by humans across the planet. The climate change that we have seen is really quite small. I mean, relatively speaking. We may have some stronger storms. They do more dollars worth of damage because there's more energy in the storms due to, the oceans heating up and producing more evaporation of moisture into the atmosphere, which causes, stronger storms, etc. There may be shifts in regional climates as a result of global climate change. Some areas may be wetter, some areas may be drier, hotter, colder, depending on... The Earth is a very complex system, but the changes have been relatively minor, and those are changes that have accumulated over the course of a century and a half of very intense industrial development by humans. So with that said, inducing any kind of terraforming or climate change on Mars, even though Mars is a smaller planet by a significant margin, is a long-term project. So for example, if we wanted to give Mars a breathable atmosphere, that would take eons. It would take millennia of concerted effort, of dragging material, comets or whatever. I mean, there's nothing that humans can do within like a lifetime to affect any significant change to any climate. Again, it took the entirety of humanity 150 years to quote-unquote accomplish what we've done thus far here on the Earth, which is a much bigger planet with a much thicker atmosphere, where 7.5 billion people are currently living, much fewer 150 years ago. But all right, let's see. Transcode asks, hey Rawspace, how are you, bro? Watching from Chile. Well, I am doing okay. Keeping my head up. Trying to stay sane at home, which isn't too hard because I like being at home, but I still have obligations. So life is a challenge. Mitsubishi boosters on the Japanese launch. It's very true. Scott Murto complimented my Google Earth zoom. Thank you. Google Earth is great for producing satellite zooms. Let's see. Launchpad. Best launch coverage ever. Surely referring to the Chinese launch. Thank you, Microsound. It was, oh my gosh, the coverage was so nuts. It was entertaining, but embarrassing because as someone who provides who provides restreams of launch coverage, I try to make sure that the content I provide is quality, and that was, I guess, quality entertainment, one might say. All right. Chinese lander. There's probably some pictures floating around out there of the Chinese lander. Maybe just renderings. I'm not sure. You'd have to go look. Scott Murtow, the regime may suck, but the people's space program will long outlive and outlast them. Hear, hear. May it forever, may it reign? Not the regime, but the space program. Snow Kittens, such a beauty, referring to the Long March 5. Next launch of this beast is later this year for their Chang'e 5 lunar sample return mission. They'll also use this rocket for their own space station assembly, which I'm not sure what stage that's at, but yes, China does plan to build their own space station, since they're not invited to the NASA party. Tig Greyhoff says, Mars' inner core doesn't create a big enough magnetic field to shield it. Not enough atmosphere for us to change. Yeah. I should have mentioned the lack of global magnetosphere in my comments about the Martian climate. Yes, Mars's core is different than ours. It does not generate a global magnetic field like Earth does. There are localized magnetic fields based on I guess the materials in the bedrock or whatever, but Mars's core does not shield the planet from radiation like ours does, and so Mars gets blasted. Even though it's farther away from the sun, it still gets blasted with solar radiation, which has largely stripped its atmosphere, which is why the Martian atmosphere is only like a couple of percent of the density of ours, and contains almost all carbon dioxide, as opposed to ours, which is primarily nitrogen with a large component of oxygen, and then argon and some others, with carbon dioxide being actually a very small percentage of our atmosphere, despite our best efforts to spit more carbon dioxide up there. Also, the Martian, yeah, good point, Mark Desire. The Martian gravity is much less than Earth's, so it is also less able to hold on to the atmosphere, because the tendency of matter, of, like, let's say a gas, is to for the particles to bump into each other and spread out. And so, absent the force of gravity, I mean, of course, every particle in the universe has its own gravity, which is why molecular clouds are able to clump together and form solar systems. But they also get a push from shock waves from supernovae and things like that. But yeah, the force of gravity on a planet is what holds the atmosphere down, of course, and even so, some molecules still escape into space, because they just, the golden BB or whatever, they bounce in the right angle at the right velocity, and they end up escaping. So, or even Earth loses some of its atmosphere every year to space, and the less gravitational pull a body has, the more atmosphere they're going to lose. Let's see. Any more questions? Transcode asks, Raw Space, what do you know about Perseverance rover mission and launch? Is actually next week in August. I'll get to that later in the show, shortly. All right, moving along. So we were looking at last Thursday. China launched their Mars mission. Later that same day, a Soyuz rocket lifted off from Baikonur Cosmodrome, carrying a Progress supply module to the ISS. It arrived a short 3 hours later, and let's see, here we go. Let's go back a page. Progress. Whoops. That's weird. Let me get to the right spot here. Super speed. Here we go. Progress launch from Baikonur Cosmodrome. I should have downloaded a better copy of the video from Roscosmos. They produce their videos in high definition, but for some strange reason, despite the fact that NASA is like the paragon of technology or whatever, they're actually not. Like, a lot of their systems are old and broken down. Like, their feed of video from Roscosmos, I think it was put together in the 80s or something. It's terrible quality. It's like 480p on a potato, but whatever. I mean, at least we get coverage.
Start sequence has been initiated. We have engine start. Turbo pumps now coming up to flight speed. Now at maximum thrust. Now ignition and liftoff. Liftoff of the 76th Progress resupply craft heading for the express lane to the International Space Station. Good roll, pitch, and yaw program are in. Progress heading out to the northeast in an orbit inclined 51.6 degrees to catch up to the International Space Station. The station now passing directly over the Baikonur Cosmodrome. All vehicle parameters report.
There we go.
And there are the booster. The boosters now separated.
Look at that Korolev three-pointed cross. We can't see the other one because it was behind the rocket.
Structural parameters continue to be normal. The Soyuz now being thrusted towards its preliminary orbit for the Progress resupply craft on the power of the second stage engines.
Rising suns. That's kind of cool. It was a beautiful broadcast.
2 minutes, 50 seconds into the flight. Everything proceeding in great fashion so far. No issues reported from the Black House in Baikonur.
Chipmunk space program.
The vehicle reported to be stable. And there's the jettisoning of the launch shroud. Great view from the upper stage camera on the Soyuz 2.9 booster. The next milestone will be second stage shutdown at the 4-minute 37-second mark, about 1 minute from now.
Okay. So, good job, Russians. Soyuz is reliable as usual. And then on Friday, another China's busy. Another Chinese Long March 4B, which is a small rocket, launched the Ziyuan 303 Earth Observation and the Lobster Eye X-ray astronomy satellites. Lobster Eye aims to, it's a funny name, but Lobster Eye aims to search for dark matter signals within the X-ray frequency range, including hypothetical sterile neutrino particles. I know absolutely nothing about that, so if you do, please feel free to speak up, or if you don't, please feel free to look it up, because that sounds intriguing. Also last week, looking 51 years into the past, on Monday, July 20th, 1969, Apollo 11 landed on the moon. 4 days later, they successfully splashed down in the Atlantic Ocean, marking a successful conclusion to humanity's very first baby step into the cosmos, which I personally believe is perhaps the greatest accomplishment that this species of ours has ever done. I think that legacy will live as long as there are humans in this universe. That was I I lament that I wasn't alive at that time, because although if I was, then I'd be retired now, which might be cool. But all right, so back to the chat. Tig Rayhoff asked a question. What did he ask? Perseverance rover. See, this is why it would be helpful to have a moderator or volunteer of some sort to summarize the questions in a separate window, so I don't don't have to scan the chat during my live broadcast, which is maybe a little awkward. Okay. Scott Murto loves and hates the Russians. Oh, Tigrayhoff, have you seen the morning comet? This is me glaring at the webcam. So let me let me find the URL. Actually, let me just drag the image over. Hold on. So, Comet Neowise, very cool looking. Little on the small and dim side. Nothing like Hale-Bopp of 1997. But here you go. So North Carolina in the summer has the unfortunate feature of having storms and clouds every single freaking night. Every single night. There are storms, thunder, and clouds. And I mean, the clouds are very pretty. They're multi-layered and they're actually quite beautiful, and they can produce some great sunsets. But it's not the clouds I want to look at. It's the sky. And the night sky, I should say. And so, literally, for the past month, every day I look at the forecast, I look at the sky around sunset, and like only a couple of times have I been able to be conscious for sunrise. But even in the morning, there's clouds. So some times of the year, North Carolina skies are quite clear. Summertime, especially the early to mid-summertime, not one of them. So I have not been able to see the comet. I mean, we've had clear patches of sky. We've had like most of the sky clear, but like on the horizon and to the northwest and northeast where the comet has been appearing, always clouds. Always, always, always clouds. It's actually been very frustrating being a space-related YouTube content creator and as well as a photographer who has been wanting to get a picture of the comet since the last comet I photographed was 23 years ago, and that was before I was really into photography and I didn't have much gear, so or knowledge. But c'est la vie. I mean, there are people all around the world capturing great images of Comet Neowise, so more power to them. If you can see it, do so, because naked eye visible comets are quite rare. And if you can't, just enjoy other people's pictures, because you know there will be more comets. Just we don't know when, because usually the ones that catch us by surprise are not the old faithfuls like Halley's, but rather long period comets that swing by the sun once and then don't come back for 4,000 years or whatever. So let's see. So that was my comet rant. Raji Casas asks, the Soyuz rocket's engine has a turbo pumps on each 4 boosters. I am not a rocket scientist. I am not even an internet rocket scientist like Scott Manley claims to be. I mean, like, internet rocket expert. I do not know much about the mechanics of the rockets, and so I couldn't answer that question. I wish I did, but I'm kind of more, despite all the launches I stream, I'm kind of more interested in what's out there versus, the technology. But okay. Oop, the chat just jumped. Let's see. I have a hard time seeing the thing moving forward really. I'm sorry, I'm just scanning for questions. But chat's good, so keep it up. The more chat, the more communication, the better a world we'll live in. Okay. Oh, I do have a question. A comment from Ting Ting Shiny. Eco bulbs eat my dimmed streets. We are lit up these past couple of years. No more scope in my backyard. There you go, Chris V. Excellent question. Tag my name. That way I see it highlighted. Tag my name if you're asking a question. That way I will see it highlighted in the chat. That's a great idea. I wish I thought of it myself. I would be a millionaire. So, Ting Ting Shiny, yes, streetlights affecting your view of the night sky. I live near Charlotte, North Carolina, which is a huge light generator, and our seeing is never very good. As a matter of fact, the whole eastern United States is pretty crap for viewing the night sky. I'm kind of torn by, like, a big picture desire to live in a dark sky location and a competing desire to not live in the middle of freaking nowhere with no access to resources like grocery stores and gigabit Ethernet. Maybe Starlink will solve my problems, at least as far as data. It can't get me groceries, but all right. Mark Desire asks, any thoughts about the recent news about the very high temperatures recently recorded in the Arctic? For example, Spitsberg 21 degrees Celsius instead of the normal 7 degrees Celsius. I haven't read that story, so Gina Miller, you get clouds too, I'm sorry. I haven't read that story, so I can't speak to it specifically, but if there are anomalous temperatures in the Arctic, then that is not good. It would be important, though, to compare the current numbers with, like, how long have we been monitoring that particular location, and are there occasional spikes in temperature? You know, because it's easy to look at a change in data with alarm, but it's also important to keep a historical perspective and make sure that the change you're observing is not like a normal thing, because, you know. But if it is a totally new phenomenon that the temperature is 3 times what it normally is, then that's not good indeed. Gaming Slushy, the screw holes on my telescope stripped. That's not good. What are those screw holes used for? To mount it to the base, or to attach your eyepiece? Sounds like you may need some telescope maintenance. Appable, yes, Appable actually does know stuff about the functioning of rocket engines. He's studying for aerospace engineering. Soyuz has turbopumps for all engines. The 4 nozzles are just 4 nozzles on one engine, so 1 turbopump that feeds all combustion chambers. Good info. All right. Maria Kutujan says winter in Brazil right now, because they're southern hemisphere where she lives, is hot for that season. So I don't know much about the climate of Brazil. It's not being from there, but yeah. So one measurement, well, I wouldn't, okay, so Mark Desire says, indeed, Raw, just one measurement means nothing. I wouldn't say it means nothing, but it needs to be, you know, considered in a larger context. You know, I'm not an alarmist. You know, whenever something, like, for, you know, like UFO videos and climate, whatever. I mean, you've got to do careful, thorough, and level-headed analysis of all the information, and think about things rationally, and you know, with an eye for the big picture, rather than sort of alarmistly, you know, reacting to what looks to be unusual. And so, yeah, we'll see we'll see how things go. And if the whole Arctic melts and we all flood, then we'll know that it really did mean something. Okay. Okay, so that's enough of that banter. Looking ahead to the next week. All right. This is supposed to be the week view. There we go. Looking ahead to this week, it is a biggie. On Wednesday, July 29th at 5:29 p.m. Eastern, 9:29 GMT, a Russian Proton M with the donut-shaped Breeze M upper stage will launch the Express 80 and Express 103 communication satellites from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan into geostationary transfer orbits. Then on Thursday, July 30th, at 7:50 a.m. Eastern, 11:50 a.m. GMT, is the big show. Well, one big show. Big show number one. NASA's Mars 2020 mission with the Perseverance rover and Ingenuity helicopter drone will launch from Cape Canaveral on a ULA Atlas V rocket. Tweets forthcoming from Tori Bruno. All three of this year's Mars missions, Hope, Tianwen-1, and Perseverance, will take about 7 months to reach the red planet, arriving next February if all goes well. Bear in mind that Mars missions are notoriously challenging, and many of them fail to reach their destination, and many of them fail to become operational once they reach Mars. So let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that all three of these Mars missions are successful and provide valuable data, and that data then gets shared with the world for the benefit of all mankind. Humankind, I should say. This, yeah. Then on Friday, July 31st, an Ariane 5 rocket will launch the Galaxy 30, MEV-2, and BSat-4B communication satellites. If this launch happens, if it's not scrubbed or delayed again, it will be the first launch at the Guyana Space Center since that spaceport was shut down for COVID back in March, I guess it was. They were supposed to have a Vega launch a couple months ago, but that was scrubbed, and I didn't see it put back on the schedule yet. So this will be the first launch by the European Space Agency at their Guyana Space Center in quite some time. Then on Saturday, August 1st, starting at 5:15 p.m. Eastern, 9:15 p.m. GMT, begins a marathon 22-hour broadcast of the astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley returning to Earth in their SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule. You remember they launched up there, what was it, 2 months ago? 3 months ago? I don't even remember the date. But they've been up there for a while, doing their work, doing tests of the Crew Dragon, conducting science operations, doing numerous spacewalks to swap out batteries, and on the lithium-ion batteries that they have been installing for the last 3 years. And it is now their time to return home. Now, recall that the Crew Dragon, that this Demo 1 Crew Dragon mission was never intended to be this long. They were able to, like, in other words, they were supposed to visit the station for maybe a couple of weeks, not, a couple of months like they've been up there. But because of the loss of the original Crew Dragon module on the pad last year, the spacecraft that Bob and Doug inherited was the next generation, the successive version of Crew Dragon, which is able to stay on orbit for a longer period of time. But it is now their time to return home. So the broadcast starts again at 5:15 p.m. Eastern. The hatch closes about 30 minutes later. Then they undock about 2 hours after that. And splashdown won't happen until Sunday, August 2nd at 2:42 p.m. Eastern, 6:42 GMT. And again, there's going to be continuous coverage from hatch closing all the way through splashdown, sort of like they did with the launch. I'm sure there will be numerous, and I'll provide that coverage for you with our lively chat community, as always. I'm sure there will be copyright issues, but yeah, YOLO. And then finally, on Sunday, August the 2nd, the same day as the splashdown, at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, just a few minutes after the splashdown, in fact, 7:30 p.m. GMT, will be the maiden launch of Astra's 3.1 rocket, after their unfortunate scrub a few months ago, which disqualified them from the DARPA launch challenge, which they were the sole remaining participants in. So Astra hopefully getting off the ground this time. Next Sunday. And I apologize, on my calendar I have not added, so here I'll put a link to the calendar, the schedule. I have not added the Crew Dragon return mission. I'll do that later. So I'm mentioning it here, but it is not currently on the calendar. But that's next Saturday. Let me take a look at the chat. Oh, and if you see a bunch of missions clustered at the end of the month with a question mark on them on my calendar, it's because they were delayed, but we don't know what the reschedule date is. So I don't delete. Probably what I should do is switch them to a different calendar so they don't show up here, so people don't think there's a whole bunch of stuff launching on July 31st. But yeah, so that's what I'll do. But anyway, the question mark indicates that we don't, the launch date and time are to be determined. Mark Desire says, okay, Microsound says sometime in August for Vega. So we'll stay tuned for that. Tig Rayhoff says he's surprised they're coming back as the other astronauts have been there longer. So yeah, the Crew 1, I'm sorry, the Demo 1 mission, Demo 2, good lord, raw space. The Demo 2 mission, which is this one that Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley are currently participating in, was never intended to be a full-fledged expedition mission. It was never intended to have the full duration of an expedition, crew mission that would last 6 months or 9 months or however long they stay up there. So but they have been there for roughly 3 months, I guess, and so they got a lot more than they bargained for, which is great because these veteran astronauts, well, they deserve this. And Mark Desire says, will there be 4 crew on the next Crew Dragon? According to, I haven't read up on it, shame on me, but I've been pretty busy. But the Crew 1 mission, which is the next Crew Dragon mission, which is not a demonstration mission, but is the first quote-unquote production Crew Dragon expeditionary crew delivery mission to the ISS. Yes, I believe there will be 4 crew based on what I've seen. Let's see. Chris V says, raw space, why does Progress use land and why does Crew Dragon use water? So, I think you mean Soyuz, because Progress doesn't carry humans, and Progress also doesn't land. It burns up in the atmosphere when they deorbit it. But the Soyuz spacecraft, not to be confused with the Soyuz rocket that launches it, because Russia likes to name spacecraft for the payload they are launching, which makes it confusing. The Soyuz crew spacecraft does land on land. It lands in Kazakhstan because that is close to where they launch from. Also, Russia is a ginormous, or well, this former Soviet Union, because Kazakhstan used to be part of that, is a ginormous country. Almost all of it is land. So there's really no, unless they want to land off the coast of the Kamchatka Peninsula or something, or in the Arctic Ocean, which would not be very good. there's really no place on water for them to land, so they have to land on land, and they do so propulsively. It comes down on parachutes. The Soyuz module comes down on parachutes, and then they have retro rockets that fire very briefly in the last moments to cushion the landing, somewhat. I mean, it's still a rough landing. Sometimes there are minor injuries, but for the most part, it gets astronauts and cosmonauts back home to Earth relatively safe and sound. And as far as Crew Dragon using water, so you may be familiar. By the way, Maria Kutujan, thank you for that contribution. It's very generous of you. You may recall the Super Draco engines, which are the 4 pairs of 2, totaling 8 large engines on the outside of the Crew Dragon module. Those were originally intended to be able to provide for a propulsive landing of that module on land, but for a number of reasons, including the difficulty of getting that system certified for human spaceflight, they decided against that, and instead they used the Super Dracos for launch abort. In case something goes wrong during the launch, the Super Draco engines will boost the crew safely away from the rocket as it blows up or whatever. But anyway, so the original plan was to land on land, but that proved to be, I think it may have been a time issue that they wanted to move forward more quickly, and so they opted for water landing with the same parachutes that they would have used for a land landing. But in any case, also America's launch site is on the coast, unlike Russia's launch site, which is in the middle of a vast high plain or steppe. Scott Murto says, Astra's secret engine test setup was so friggin' cool, wish they would release pics. Tweet them, they might. Let's see. Okay, so let me switcheroo to the big camera dealio. All right, so I wanted to mention, I'm glad this broadcast has been going well, because like there haven't been any technical issues during this Space Week, because I had to swap out my video card temporarily. So as you may be aware, back in March, I built a new main computer. I call it Nebula because it's spacey, and it has LEDs that I turned purpley blue. But anyway, Nebula is a very powerful computer, but it is not without its glitches. So last week, like maybe 8 days ago, 7 days ago, something like that, my video card started acting up primarily in 3D games like Ark and Elder Scrolls Online, and it started freezing just 100% of the time. Like, the games became completely unplayable, which for me is a big deal because I'm a gamer, I may be middle-aged, but I still spend a goodly portion of my time playing games, because modern life, and also quarantine life. But anyway, my video rendering wasn't affected. I was still able to render my videos, but the 3D games were dead in the water. And so I troubleshot the heck out of my video card, and finally swapped it out for a 5-year-old card, still a pretty robust card for the time, but nonetheless 5 years old and not nearly up to the challenge now. But instantly, upon swapping out the video cards, I was able to play my games again, albeit with slightly lesser graphics settings, but without any freezing. So anyway, this here is my Asus ROG Strix NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2080 Ti video card that I installed in my Nebula computer back in March in a live stream. And it is a heavy sucker and very thick too. Like, remember when video cards were just a card? I mean, this thing is a tank. Anyway, this very high-tech and expensive video card needs to be RMA'd, so it is currently not in my computer. And like, even though I can still render videos, I can't do it as quickly as I can with the new card, so that's unfortunate. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that because a video card is a pretty critical component in a video content creator's arsenal. But let's see here. Oh, micro sound is 48 and still a gamer. Yeah, I remember a few years ago I noticed a guy called Gray Still Plays, and he's this middle-aged guy who with graying hair, who plays games. And when I first saw his channel, I think he had maybe 20,000 subscribers, but man, he blew up. Like, I think he's at 1.5 million or something now. So kudos to him, representing us not so young folk anymore. But anyway, that I think is it for this week. I don't even know how many viewers are still with us because all I see is the chat, not the viewers. But I don't think I missed anything. A lot going on last week and this week. It might calm down a little bit after that. We shall see. But oh, stay tuned throughout this coming week because there may be some live stream. If I don't live stream them, I'll at least post the videos. But I may live stream some news conferences and informational meetings and stuff talking about the Mars 2020 mission, because there's a bunch of content that's going to be broadcast by NASA in the next few days, especially like Monday, Tuesday time frame. And I think that would be fun to watch. Anyway, until next time, keep it raw, stay safe, stay masked, and I will see you next week.